Before we jump in, one other question that we get asked a lot, especially recently, which is how do times of adversity impact trends? So for example, when the economy is down, is gold as a color or a material really more valuable to consumers?
Well, gold is the question of gold or silver and the metallic colors is always an interesting topic when you are hanging out with jewelry business people. So we thought you might want to hear about this topic. So gold is seen as the kind of the luxury and the aspiration and the kind of the highest value of things in life. But what's really interesting at this current time that we also have this other trend, which is for sustainability and this idea that we really seriously have to save the planet if we want to have a place to live. So that's bringing a trend of sort of less materialism and less consumerism and sort of being more careful and more subtle about our spending habits and how we sort of show our wealth and how we show up in life, and these two opposites are creating a trend that even though it's a recession time, and in normal other recession times gold has sort of become interesting because it's sort of showing our sort of aspiration for better and richer times. Then in this current time, because of this strong eco sensibility and this sort of modesty and moderation in consumer spending coming through, that means that gold is actually not as desirable because it can be a sign of sort of ostentation and sort of kind of frivolous spending as well. So in this time we are not seeing it, and we'll be showing you through this presentation how gold is showing in sort of more subtle ways.
Definitely. So let's jump in to the presentation then. So we're going to get into today's presentation content now, and we're going to start with a short overview of today's consumer.
So at Trendstop, we are unique in that we connect trends with forecast to what consumers are going to want in the future. So our trends look beautiful, but they have this science behind why something is a trend. And here we have some of the meaningful consumer values of this decade, 2020s, and this will be for sure a very interesting decade for everyone, not least because of the pandemic, but there are some sort of value changes happening, which the pandemic has in part accelerated, which are the, like we mentioned, the all-inclusive, all-pervasive sustainability interests, and then community and diversity interests, and just people becoming just a bit more sort of attentive to people and the other people and the planet. But in terms of product, it means things like seamless lifestyle relevance. So people want things that sort of take them through their day to night and their whole from home to active seamlessly. They want beautiful products that are executed through this very considered premium execution. And then, of course, people want engaging and memorable experiences, and nobody wants to waste their time on something that isn't interesting. So all of these are just some of the influences impacting the consumer mindset of the 2020s. And with this sort of little backdrop, we are then going to go further into one of our seasonal themes.
Exactly. So all of those values very much inform our seasonal theme for today, which is global modern couture. So global modern couture sees a renaissance of craftsmanship and a sustainable artisan economy. Drawing on the romanticism and rigorous attention to quality and detail of couture, this theme nevertheless sidesteps the elitism that's associated with couture and fine jewelry, focusing instead on the hands that made it and the skills that are passed down from generation to generation. So here we're really examining that return to an appreciation of the beautifully handmade, where couture level intricacy of detail combines with the love and care of human artisanship. Items and brands alike are imbued with deeper value and meaning, a key purchase driver for the 2020s consumer. Brands and designers have the opportunity to work with local communities and artisans, and a deeper connection is forged between designer, maker, and consumer. So really highlighting that continuation of conscious consumerism and the focus on consideration and longevity.
So, the idea of, couture comes from Paris, and this idea that objects should be sort of beautiful, and when people are considering what they buy, they want to really sort of spend their money on something that has been considered, that there's this kind of return into more meaningful design. But the global part brings in that sort of community aspect that a lot of, especially smaller brands, are starting to think about how they can collaborate with sort of communities in countries or areas where they can bring sort of employment opportunities to some artisans that still have skills to make beautiful products, and just bring some kind of economic benefits to less advantaged people, and that is part of how this or an example, shall we say, how this sort of beautiful artisan handmaking can combine with the more sort of global and social responsibility. And that's what this story speaks about.
Absolutely. And to kind of summarize all that up, as Mary Portas, a UK-based retail expert, states, every pound or dollar spent is a vote for how we want to live.
And increasingly more consumers are starting to think this way. Here in Europe, we are a little bit ahead of the consumer and the sort of mindsets of the sustainability and this kind of meaningful values in brands is a little bit further, but even in North America, it's starting to show through smaller independent labels already, and it's only gonna grow and continue through this decade.
Absolutely. So our next section is looking at some color directions. So our first color direction for today is soft dew. So soft dew really brings to the fore a subtly refined eco-sensibility with a sense of lightness and airiness, which really carries through into product. Explore materials such as mattified, found, or off-cut green marble, such as in this piece from Completed Works, in conjunction with other softly saged stones.
And here in this presentation, you'll see examples of other colors than metallic colors coming into jewelry. And of course, in jewelry, it's always presented with the metallic, as you see from these nice examples shown through these pages. We can see the metals sort of combined with colors in interesting way, and these kind of fashion colors coming into the jewelry bring a certain interesting subtlety to the metals.
Absolutely.
Did you want to introduce this piece in the corner in the bottom right?
Yes, so this is a piece by Completed Works. It's made from off-cut green marble.
Okay.
So our next color is dusted mauve, which brings a similarly sophisticated and beautiful eco-focus into color use. So there's lovely opportunity in raw and uncut stones that celebrate natural states and imperfections and play off artisanal craftsmanship, as we can see here in this example from Allegheny. Our next color is Azzurro Ice, which brings an expressive color pop to the palette, with the chalked quality giving the color a sophisticated edge. So there's opportunity here to explore playful and refined experimental techniques, such as this dipped rubber example from Sine.
And this color is a brighter one in the palette, and it's interesting how it shows how the gold is sort of disappearing into this bright color pop. But in general, the colors that we are introducing here have a quite a soft quality, and that is sort of like a sign of this sort of eco-friendly and less sort of harshly dyed colors. And even if we say that this Azzurro Ice here is an accent, it's quite a subtle for an accent. So overall, there's this sort of quiet softness to color.
Definitely. So the richness of natural materials is really highlighted in our next color, ash navy, which has a beautiful, lustrous vintage focus. So we can see here in these Sophie Buhai black freshwater pearl earrings how shape and color can really combine to interpret vintage influences in a modern way.
And here as well, we see how the metallic effect has been sort of subdued by this sort of iridescent color in these earrings. So there are sort of different treatments that help make the colors less sort of ostentatious, if you will, or more quiet and subtle.
Cautiously optimistic yellow signals the emergence of optimism within the market. So it's very much a colour that considers longevity and sophistication, but nevertheless brings a playfulness to jewellery. So here we have a Bottega Veneta example, which uses a combination of gold and cautiously optimistic yellow in a really modern way, allowing for just flashes of that gold metal to be exposed.
And that's another example how the gold or the metallic can be more subtle. So it's just sort of peeking through these strips of leather in a more subtle way. And what's always interesting working, I mean, I worked in trend forecasting for over 20 years, and it's so interesting to see how the fashion is such a kind of a precursor to consumer mindsets. Like, for example, this forecast, or at least how our methodology uncovers the trends, and this cautiously optimistic yellow was sort of uncovered already before, what kind of whilst we were in the middle of the pandemic. So there was no optimism in sight anywhere. But now that it's being forecasted to emerge more in the market, we are seeing that yes, there definitely is cautious optimism in the market. And we spoke about this sort of contrast between the Pantone color of the year, which is that very bright yellow, for those of who you've explored that, and it's not very, that kind of bright yellow is not well aligned to the consumer mindset, because the bright yellow is very much a very like a highly optimistic, highly energetic color, and that's not what people are sensing at the moment. So this optimistic light version that is coming through the trend curve as we analyze it, is really appropriate from the consumer mindset perspective as well. And if we had time, we could give like a sort of interesting mindset talk about each of these colors, but they really connect to the way how people feel in really interesting ways.
Definitely, that's a whole chat unto itself. So our next color, or next and final color for today, is Hotel Chocolat. So it's a beautiful vintage hued brown with a lovely richness and depth. It also brings an element of eco focus into the palette, playing on found and natural materials or eco resins with organic texture and depth, which can be seen in this Loewe example, which uses resin stones. Similarly, this ring below by Anita Barisha uses a polished glass stone, playing off the gold metal. So in these two examples, the natural focus of the brown color really serves to ground the gold, which in turn brings a refined vintage feel that's very luxurious. So the combination helps the pieces to feel very modern and elevated.
And they are also examples how bringing this sort of earthy brown to the gold also helps it feel sort of less ostentatious and more subtle and more down to earth. And then what's interesting about this Hotel Chocolat color, that chocolate is both a kind of like a feel-good food, or it's a food, and then the color, this brown color, is also the color of the earth. So it's got both kind of an eco feeling, and then it's got the kind of comfort, feel-good feeling about it. And chocolate sort of combines both, because it is a plant as well as something you can eat. And we really wanted to give this color this name Hotel Chocolat, because there's this, I don't know if it's known in North America, but there's this sort of boutique chocolate brand called Hotel Chocolat, and it's this idea that you can be so immersed in this color of chocolate that it's like you have this like a hotel, entire hotel of chocolate that is just like this immersion of brown everywhere. And you could also eat it if it was real chocolate.
Lovely. So now that we've looked at our colours, we're going to explore some key item directions that tie back to our global modern couture theme.
Artisanal found objects focuses on the beauty of natural formations and textures, elevating found objects to works of art. Here we see encapsulated natural elements combined with melted forms and granulated textures, and material usage explores coconut wood, shell, polymer clay, porcelain, and ceramics. Non-toxic water-based resin systems such as jesmonite are crafted into organic shapes, and semi-precious stones such as agate come in a matte finish. Metal and natural materials combine, creating an elevated artisanal finish.
And as you can see, even from the feeling of this entire page, is how it has a very sort of subtle feeling. There's only the one image in the bottom corner has a bit more shinier metal, but overall it's very like matte surfaces, and the metal is very subtly presented. And even the sort of idea of these pieces and the photography and presenting them in this sort of natural environment is they're kind of like combining on the idea of this sort of found objects on the beach or something. And it's sort of quite telling that the third image in the top row where the object is in a kind of beach setting, you know, if you went to place this item on a actual real life beach, there most likely would be some sort of plastic bottle or plastic bag lying around nearby. So it's sort of just, you know, it's really nice in marketing messages and otherwise to sort of celebrate nature and to be respectful of what we are, our actions, and how we can sort of try to remind people to be good to the planet.
In our next key item, jewellery is inspired by ancient heirlooms and making methods, which are passed down from generation to generation. Uneven edges, age-worn holes, and imperfections are reminiscent of vintage finds and reinvented treasures. Solid cast pieces that feel quality and have weight are given antiqued and burnished finishes. Quilted casting details and intricate embossed detailing create a luxurious feel.
And this, of course, ties back to these key items that we've chosen. They generally tie back to that lovely global couture story that we spoke about. So you can see some of these ideas come to life in the idea of the global heirlooms, which could be heirlooms from any culture or that have a kind of like a multicultural heritage behind them.
So in the artisanal upcycled hoop, sculptural round wire hoops are elevated through sandcast shapes or hand-pierced metals, with beaten and hammered finishes and oversized statement proportions that celebrate organic imperfection. Never-ending twisting and organic spiraling silhouettes add drama to front-facing and ear-climbing profiles.
Our next key item is refined handcraft. So luxe metal and material combinations here really create a refined, crafted aesthetic that nods to original artisanal techniques. When combined with leather or vegan leather alternatives, construction becomes a feature with stitching incorporated into the design rather than being hidden. Techniques such as knitting, weaving, braiding, and explorative fabric manipulation can also be used to create pattern and texture on bold shapes.
And these are perfect examples of that kind of a collaboration with some kind of like a local collective to produce like real artisanal pieces.
So soft organic shapes, we see 3D castings and soft hand manipulation are used to create softly folded edges and fluid organic shapes. We see subtle satin and brushed finishes applied to pale gold, though they would also work equally well in matte silver with the same muted finish.
So that brings us to the end of our key item presentation. We hope you've enjoyed the presentation so far. And as we mentioned in the beginning, please let us know what your comments and questions are in the chat. We will be going into the Q&A shortly, but in the meantime, let's take a look at some next steps.
So we just wanted to give you a brief introduction. If you've enjoyed today's presentation and you would like to know what else you could do with the Trendstops and what sort of next steps there might be available, whilst we are waiting for you to type your questions, we'll just briefly talk to you about our three different services that we have here at Trendstop.
So first we have a 360-degree brand elevation service, which helps brands holistically across their brand, product and marketing. So for example, we can help with consumer targeting, brand positioning, seasonal product direction, and digital and social marketing. Secondly, we have the Trend platform, which you've been seeing some snapshots from in the presentation. And here you can find beautiful forward-thinking accessory forecasts. And our information is organised for 3 different market levels: innovator, fashion forward, and mainstream, to make it really easy to apply the relevant future trends for your target audience.
And then we also have our Trend community, which is a really nice, affordable way to join us if you've liked the format of this session. So we host a weekly live Trend session, which is very similar to this one, every Friday at 4:30 p.m. London time and at 11:30 a.m. New York time, with access to the session recordings afterwards. Normally it's $89.99, but this month we have a special offer for Accessories Council members to join for only $79.99 per month. And we have a 14-day free trial. So if you want more, you can go to the link that we're posting in the chat now and take your 14-day free trial. Plus you get to watch all of our past recordings as well.
And we have tomorrow's presentation at 11:30. New York time is, it's not directly accessories, but we talk about range building. So especially if you are working for a company where you do other products as well, it could be interesting for you or your colleagues. So we will, if you want to see us again, we'll be there.
We will be.
And then we have another very nice invitation for you as a gift to Accessory Council members and the attendees of this session. So we wanted to invite everyone, if you are interested, to a complimentary brand strategy session, which is an online session that can give you a taste of the 360 brand elevation program. So the idea is that you can come there with your sort of questions, and I will ask you a couple of preliminary questions before the session about where you want to go next with your brand or what you are working on, and then together in the session we sort of help answer some questions, find some clarity, and kind of plan next steps. So it's a great session to sort of figure out consumer and market relevant next steps for your brand. So we have a link for that as well. So you can click the link in the chat to both request this strategy session or find out more about the Trend community and get your free trial.
So I think we're ready now for the Q&A session.
I am going to ask a question to get things kicked off, and then you could put your questions in the chat. You could put them into the comments. Either way, we'll make sure they get asked. But I'm so taken with the beautiful colors that you showed. How much of that crosses, you know, not just in the jewelry world? Do we see it in other categories, or is this something that you think is jewelry specific? What can we expect?
That's a great question, Karen. Thank you for asking, and hopefully hopefully that inspires everyone. That feel free to ask. It's like a ask anything of the Trend experts moment now, so don't be shy, and you can type or you can unmute your mic and speak your question if you'd like. So with regards to the colors, the kind of ongoing color development is that color is becoming more and more similar across categories. So home is becoming always closer and closer to fashion. Even activewear is becoming sort of more fashionable and more leaning into the fashion colors than before. So gone are the days of 20 years ago when activewear was bright blue and bright red. So it's very much becoming closer and closer to the seasonal fashion color. And yes, these same colors would be equally happening in for other accessories and then in fashion. So it's very much the color sort of works so that it complements each other. So there'll be accessories, or at least that's how our forecasting works, so that there'll be beautiful colors that complement each other. So there'll be a complementary outfit that then has complementary accessories and jewelry to go with it. And we think it's a really interesting development, what we were just showing, that there are these sort of fashionable colors coming into jewelry, not just the traditional metal colors. And that's we think that's a really exciting development for jewelry. And yes, those same or similar colors would be then seen in other fashionable items as well.
Great. Let's see, there's a great question here. In the past, people look to Paris, London, and Milan for trends. Do you see certain geographic areas becoming more directional?
That's yes, who asked this question? Is there a name?
Sally.
Okay, thank you for your question, Sally. Great question. And so this is a great question to ask, especially in a time when the whole world has been in a lockdown and no one's been anywhere. so it's very much highlights the fact how the sort of digital aspects of our world are sort of very much part of the conversation now. And yes, for sure, the big metropoles where sort of there are a lot of creative and innovative people concentrated in one place, they continue to be influential. But what is perhaps the most interesting feature is how fast the information can be shared through, you know, digital devices and networks, so that if something is to share a non-fashion example, we can use the Black Lives Movement as an example, how in a matter of days, you know, when the incident happened, you know, people were protesting not only across different cities in the US, but in different countries as well. And this really happened in a matter of days. And that's the kind of speed of information transfer that we have to come to expect now in these days. And interesting things can happen anywhere, but the chances of sort of fashion interesting things happening in the more fashionable cities are higher, simply because there are more sort of innovators and creatives located in those cities. I hope that helps to answer the question.
Yeah, great answer. Let's see, do you have any other questions? We got a shy group here today. Usually we have lots of questions. Maybe because it's such a great presentation.
Yeah, are you intimidated? If you have a question and you are worried that it's not appropriate, then go ahead, ask. I have the right to refuse to answer if I don't like the sound of it, but we don't say no to any questions. So don't feel that your question is not appropriate. It can be on any topic. No problem.
Difference between you know, fine and fashion jewelry? Are you seeing something that is emerging for fashion versus, you know, being fine, or, you know?
That's a great question as well. It's what's interesting is that formal, any kind of formal wear, whether it's fine jewelry or just formal wear, formal accessories, formal footwear, that has of course very much gone down as a trend because of the fact that we are all staying at home and on Zoom, and we can wear, you know, jogging pants, sweatpants underneath the keyboard. And as a result of that, everyone's gotten comfortable with the comfort, and once you get into comfort, nobody wants to give it up. So nobody wants to get into sort of fitted things or things that pinch or things that aren't comfortable. And going forward, there will be less formal wear. But having said that, of course, it's nice from time to time to dress up and to go to a nice event or occasion and be dressed up. But it will be sort of rarer than it has been in the past. And what that means is that there'll be this sort of like a meeting in the middle of these different aspects. So it's almost like, if we look at then on the other perspective, people also, you know, are going to be thinking more carefully what they spend their money on, because there's a more of a recession period, and more because people are thinking more that, do I really need more stuff in my life, or, you know, is this nice for the environment, or just for my mentality to have own so many things. So for those reasons, people will be considering more what they buy. So that kind of like a frivolous plastic fashion jewelry won't be as popular either. So people sort of want nice things that are sort of neither very formal fine jewelry, but also not sort of just cheap plastic either. So just like a nicely designed things that have more kind of day to night variability to them, and just sort of pieces, like considering a piece that you really feel that is you, and you really know that you're going to enjoy wearing it for years to come. So we call this timeless trend. So it's this idea where things are current and relevant and sort of new and fresh, but at the same time you can wear them for a long time.
Okay, a couple questions popping in. Do you think natural beads like pearls and semi-precious will become more popular than crystal?
Say that again. I'm not. Yeah, I think maybe the questions are directed to you. I don't see them in the.
Do you think natural beads like pearls, semi-precious will be more popular than crystal?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I found it now as well. Thank you, Kami. So it's with those kinds of nuances, because things are often more about the finish. Like, for example, if you are looking for a finish like a subtle sheen, like those lovely polished dark blue earrings we saw earlier, you could get that sort of finish from a pearl, or you could get sort of subtly, you know, crystals can, in certain applications, they can be quite subtle as well, or natural beads, of course, can be beautiful. So out of these options, natural beads have they are the most eco option. So anything sort of eco for sure will be more popular. But then the rest sort of depends on how it's treated and what's done with it, and how it's applied, and if that relates to the sort of current trend and the interest. And then of course the customers' budgets come into it. But I guess the short answer is that any design should be considered and as beautiful as it can be, and people who have a little bit more disposable income, they might choose a semi-precious stone, and then cheaper items can have crystal. But on the whole, there is this sort of rising consciousness that everything that is mined from the earth, whether it's pearls or minerals, metals, they are ultimately not good for the planet, because it's just us humans, you know, stripping the earth's resources. So there is So there is that consideration as well, and more people are thinking in those terms as well.
Jana, I think we lost you.
Oh yeah, at what point, was it just now, or was I talking to myself for a long time?
It was just for a minute there.
Okay.
Anyway, another question, and this is I think a really good one. Are there any trends that will be e-com specific, you know, working better on digital versus brick and mortar?
That's a great question, and the short answer is that the great thing about jewelry and accessories in general is that you don't need to try them for the size as much, except maybe rings. But they are a great product for e-commerce compared to apparel, let alone something like lingerie or footwear. So you are in the lucky group in that sense, that your product category is very e-commerce friendly from that perspective. And I guess apart from that, one of the big things with e-commerce is that it just sort of comes down to the photography and the being able to show and explain the product so that the customer can see it, because the more different the product is in real life, the higher the likelihood of the returns, and then that's where where the e-commerce, you know, the risk of e-commerce is in the returns, and it's just organizing your product, whether it's through video, photography, or and the written descriptions, that the customer can really sort of experience the product as much as possible in e-commerce. So I would say it's more about the sort of delivery of the ownership experience that is more difficult in e-commerce, but for sure, even after the pandemic, it's that people are just so used to ordering things online now, and not everyone can be bothered to go to the stores. So it's here, definitely the digital transactions are here to stay, very much so.
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to send the recording out to everyone. I'm also going to send the very generous offer from Trendstop for our members with a discount, which is a nice little surprise for all of us. And I have no doubt that if you have any questions, you can reach out directly to the team, and they will, we'll be able to get back to you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone.
We can stop the screen share as well, so we can. So and thanks for the great questions you asked. Great questions once you got started, and yeah, no, it was really a pleasure to meet everyone virtually, and hopefully we'll see you again soon, another time.
Well, coming up, we're going to do one for handbags and footwear. So if you double up in the categories, tune back in, and even if you just think it's good information to have. So hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Definitely. And that's actually, it's next week at the same time, same place, same time.
You know what? I like the days are just whirling by here.
Right.
I got to check our Monday emails.
Yeah, so we are doing another one with Accessory Council. So you can see us, check that out on the website, and you'll get to see us again then.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, everyone. Thank you.